What's up, guys? It's Brad at Dallas Vintage Toys, and we're going to be going over some really fun Star Wars carded figures today. And I'm excited to dive into these with you guys. So let's get started. So as you can see, we have some very special items here. In my hands is a 21 back Boba Fett. And this is a Hong Kong figure. And I'm going to try not to touch these too much because they are super fragile, but we have some very, very cool items. In my hand, we have a 21 back Princess Leia. If you notice at the top of the card, it is unpunched, which means it was never hung from a peg. Now, while this card may seem a little rough on the edges, and as you can see, it's obviously torn at the top, this card is actually a factory error, and R2-D2 was put in backwards, not with the dome as far as that's concerned, but the lower half of the body is turned and put in the wrong way. So that's actually a really fun little factory error. Sean and I love stuff like that. While we're on the subject of factory errors, we're going to go over some fun ones. This Jawa is carrying a Stormtrooper blaster, and this Jawa is packaged with a Hoth Han blaster, the lighter blue version. And here we have a third Jawa error, and this one also comes with a Stormtrooper blaster. A lot of these come from cater factories. They were notoriously known for making those kind of mistakes with quality control errors. Now over here we have two R5s. Now while he is not per se a extremely valuable or rare figure, the one over here is. And I'm going to come a little bit closer to you guys. Now, most factories left the R5, this bar to the far right of the figure. Your left is usually left not filled in. The R5 on this card, the red bar is filled in. So what we call this is a red bar R5. They are very hard to find, especially in this shape and on a card still. So that was a really fun thing that we didn't even notice until it arrived in store today. In my hands here is a 32 back bespin Luke Skywalker. Normally a common figure, pretty easy to get. This version, not so much. This is an orange-haired Bespin Luke, and this one is probably even more special because it is one of the lightest shades of that variant that I have ever seen. Normally, it is yellow hair, so there is kind of orange, there's more brown, there's even a real chocolate brown. So he is a really fun figure for Bespin Luke variant collectors and those who have focuses of Bespin Luke. In my hand here we have a 32 back and a 21 back Farm Boy Luke Skywalker. Both of these figures are Hong Kong made figures, and you might say, Brad, how do you know just by looking at the front of the figure where it's from? Sean and I have been handling these figures for so long, we can tell just by looking at the figure itself what country of origin, or COA as we call it, what that stamp on the back of the figure is going to be. Now, both of those figures were Hong Kong's, but in my hand here, we have a Taiwan Luke in Jedi Knight outfit. And you can tell on these figures just by looking at the face. Luke Skywalker's, depending on who did it, painted the face and hair differently. There is a variant of the Jedi Knight Luke. There's a blue saber. Blue sabers came only with Hong Kong figures. Hong Kong figures generally have a more richer flesh tone. Jedi Knight Lukes tend to be a little more pale. The eyes and the eyebrows kind of in a nice rich brown. And the variant of a Taiwan Luke, for example, would be a molded face, where the face was not painted, but the hair was. And those are very sought after I've owned a couple, Sean has owned a couple, and they are really sweet. Speaking of variants, this is a brown snake Yoda. Yoda, for most people, was a little bit lighter green. He came with an orange snake and a light brown cane. This would be a brown snake Yoda. The snake obviously a lot darker, the cane obviously a lot darker, and Yoda himself is a darker green. There are several variants even of dark brown snake Yodas and etc. There are ones referred to as Pac-Man eye Yoda, where the eye literally resembles a Pac-Man symbol. This might be one. I believe it actually is. So if you come close, you can actually see the Pac-Man eyes. In my hand here, we have a pink tusks Walrus Man. Walrus Man came with darker pink tusks in the front, and he also came with lighter, kind of almost like an off-white front face. And in this hand, we have a R2-D2. This is a 12 back, and I believe it is a Taiwan R2-D2. And of course, wondering again, how do you know that? And there are slight sticker differences. Oftentimes they're kind of a lighter, kind of real white, crisp whites and blues on that. The domes on R2-D2s also differ. There are really dark blues and there are really light blues like the one in my hand. And R2-D2 is a really beautiful figure when he's on a card like this in this shape. And Sean and I were really excited to acquire these cards. We buy, sell, trade 24/7. This was a collection that came in through the phone, and it was a gentleman and his son who wanted to part ways with these, and we paid them very, very handsomely to get these figures. That's one thing we pride ourselves here at DVT is if you have vintage figures in really good condition still on the card, we will pay very fairly for them. And this gentleman was extremely happy, and so are we.